never go swimming on your own unless you're very confident and you're not going to push it. Even me, like I'll never go for an adventurous sea swim on my own. I'll either go swim with somewhere else. I've had someone kayak next to me as well. That's obviously on an extreme side of things, but yeah, just doing it with other people, because you get that second opinion on how long you should stay in for or where you should even go. There's a lot of dangers in the sea as well. Like in Scotland, we're lucky there's nothing in the sea like animal-wise that's going to hurt you, but there's like seaweed and there's rocks and there's hidden things beneath the surface that you need to look out for. The last thing you want to do is get in the water and get injured. But for me, really, it's all about the conditions. Just be smart about it. Like no one enjoys going swimming when it's crap weather or when it's not nice weather, so don't bother. Like go when it's nice, go when you're feeling up for it. And that's another thing as well, is I've sometimes gone down for a swim, and in my head I've been like, okay, go for a swim today. And then I get down there and I maybe don't feel 100%. I maybe get down there and I go, do I really want to get in right now? Like, is it going to be cold or uncomfortable? And if you're not feeling up for it, like, don't push it. Like, you can go tomorrow. You can go this afternoon. You can go home, have a meal or whatever, feel a bit better. Like, I've gone down to the sea and I've gone, I actually don't feel 100% here. Like, I'm not going to bother. And then there's times when I've pushed through and I've gotten in and I'm going, that was stupid. Like, you're making it uncomfortable, you're making it a chore. Like, it should be something you do because you want to do it and it's enjoyable. Don't never force yourself to go for a swim. You don't need to.
What about currents and whirlpools and like traps like that in the water?
So the biggest thing really when it comes to like the sea safety and the currents in the tide are rip currents, and essentially where the current is in a rip formation where it's actually going to push you out a lot further out than you want, and I've never seen anyone being caught in a rip current, but they're very, very common. So the ways to look for rip currents is there'll be basically a break in the waves. So you'll see waves crashing, and then there'll be a channel in the middle, which if you look closely, the water will actually be being pushed out to shore. So what happens there is someone will go in not knowing they're in a rip current, and they'll get pushed out to sea. And it can be very dangerous because you can get pushed out pretty far, and to swim in against the rip current is exhausting. So if you ever found yourself being pushed out to sea, is try and almost let yourself go out, but then move to the side, because as soon as you're out of the current, you can swim back in again. So you imagine it being like you're stuck in a lazy river. Let the river push you out. Move to the side if you can. Don't try and swim back to shore, because you're just going to be going against the current, and the current's stronger than you are unless you're an incredibly strong swimmer. So yes, that's just the number one thing to look out for me.
Right. That's sea. I've seen a lot of people posting photos of them swimming in a lake or so. I'm kind of like also kind of wanting my own video of like being drone shot of swimming in a lake.
Yeah.
So Scottish lochs.
Yeah.
What to look out for, because obviously they look kind of dangerous from the outside. They have this aura about them, Loch Ness, for example, but also other lochs. And so if you were to go to swim in a loch, would you, and like what would you look out for?
Yeah, lochs are awesome to swim in. They're cool. As you said, they're most likely found in like really beautiful locations in Scotland. So I've swam in many. It's great. And reservoirs as well, similar. I think the dangers with both of these are traditionally it's very dark water, and that's because of the bedding underneath is dark soil, but also because they're really, really deep. So if you're going to swim out to a loch and you then try and stand up, you're not going to be able to stand up because it's deep. There's a lot of water in there. So it's being aware that as soon as you're a couple meters from the shore of a loch, it's probably going to be very, very deep water you're in. If you're comfortable with that, that's fine. But it's knowing that ahead of time, because if you were to swim 100 meters out and then go, all right, guys, let's stand up and catch our breath, and realize you can't stand up, and you set in and you panic, like that's really dangerous. So just knowing that they're very deep, which is, I don't mind that, I'm fine with that. It's also the sensation of swimming in very deep waters can be quite terrifying for people, and it's like Loch Ness, that's the one loch I've not swam in, but it's like the volume of water in there is incredible. It's like hundreds of meters deep at some points, and like to think about that and experience that for some people is like their worst nightmare. But I do want to try that out. So just knowing that they can be very deep. So don't expect to stand up when you're out there. So either staying close to the shore where you're only a couple of meters away from shallow enough water to stand up and catch your breath, or just reevaluate where you are if you swam far, is probably a good thing to look out for. So having an exit strategy. So as soon as you get tired, where can I get out from? So it's maybe staying close to where you started, or if you are going to swim further away from where you got in, is having somewhere you can get out. So swimming along the shore. Don't swim into the middle of the loch if you don't need to, because there's the chances are you could get stuck out there and be out of your depth. That's kind of what I would think about.
Do you have a way of spotting, for example, I don't know, if there are features like underwater currents and whirlpools, or a waterfall that you had no idea exists, like features of the water I assume that if you go somewhere you would know at least a little bit about the area, but anything that could help.
Yeah, I think that sometimes it's hard to know like local dangers within lochs. And what's quite good about lochs is there's never too many currents, because it's stagnant water. So it's really just very deep parts, shallow parts. For the most part, there's maybe nothing in there physically that's you're gonna swim into anything, because again they're quite deep. So from that aspect they're fairly safe. But it is knowing the area as much as you can and having reference points. So if you are going to swim towards one side of the loch, for example, is having something in the distance that you're actually swimming towards, and knowing where you're going, and not just aimlessly swimming around, because you'll get lost, you'll get disorientated. So knowing where you started, knowing where you're going, and keeping an eye on your just general surroundings is a good rule of thumb.
Any other advice for someone who goes to the open water, not necessarily a loch, for the first time?